For f of x equals 2x minus 5, what is the new function g of x resulting from a horizontal shrink by a scale factor of 1/3? Okay, for horizontal stretches and shrinks, you multiply the input by the reciprocal. So what that means is we're going to multiply this x by 3. So g of x is going to be f of 3x, multiplying the x input by 3. So in other words, g of x is going to be 2 times 3x minus 5, or g of x equals 2 times 3, which is 6, so 6x minus 5. Okay, and that's the function that will create the horizontal shrink. Let's graph and verify. So the f of x is going to be equal to 2x minus 5. And we're saying the shrunken function will be g of x equals 6x minus 5. So there's f of x, 2x minus 5, and there's g of x. Okay, now notice that the y-intercepts are the same. That means it's a horizontal shrink, and it's a shrink by a factor of 3. In other words, if you look carefully up here, this might be the easiest place to tell. If you look at the distance from the y-axis out to the blue at the top of the graph here, or where the graph cuts off, and look at the distance from the y-axis to the red is 1/3 of the way to the blue. So there's a shrink to go from f of x to g of x by a factor of 1/3, because the g of x is 1/3 of the way from the y-axis when compared to the g of x. So the g of x is 1/3 of the way from the y-axis when compared to f of x. So that's why it's a horizontal shrink. It's closer to the y-axis. So here's our function. G of x equals 6x minus 5, and that represents a horizontal shrink by a scale factor of 1/3.